The morning alarm echoed through Harmony Base as Dr. Maya Torres walked down the metal corridors of the research station. She carried her coffee mug in one hand and a data pad in the other, ready to start another day of studying alien behavior patterns. The station floated in the quiet space between three solar systems, making it the perfect neutral ground for her work. Maya had spent 5 years on Harmony Base, watching how different alien species interacted with each other. Her team studied everything from simple communication patterns to complex social structures. Most days were routine, filled with data analysis and careful observations. Today felt different. The communication alert started blinking red on her desk terminal as she entered her office. Red alerts were rare on the research station. They usually meant emergency situations or urgent diplomatic messages. Maya set down her coffee and activated the screen. The face that appeared made her heart skip a beat. Commander Vorth of the Kreth Empire stared back at her with large yellow eyes and razor-sharp teeth. The Kreth were known throughout the galaxy as apex predators. They conquered worlds, enslaved weaker species, and showed mercy to no one. Their military might was legendary, and their cruelty was even more famous. Dr. Torres, Commander Vorth spoke in heavily accented but clear human language. The Kreth Empire requires your immediate attention for a matter of utmost importance. Maya tried to keep her voice steady. Commander Vorth, what can Harmony Base do for the Kreth Empire? The alien commander paused for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. We wish to discuss the establishment of a care facility for Kreth younglings. We have selected humans to operate this facility on the neutral moon of Epsilon 7. Maya almost dropped her coffee mug. The Kreth were asking humans to take care of their children. The same species that had destroyed 3 colonies just last year wanted to trust their offspring to the people they considered weak and pathetic. I need clarification, Commander, Maya said slowly. You want humans to care for Kreth younglings? That is correct. We will arrive at your station in 72 hours to discuss the details. Prepare your best specialists in child development and interspecies relations. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Maya staring at a blank screen. She sat back in her chair, trying to process what had just happened. The Kreth had never shown interest in cooperation with other species. They took what they wanted by force and considered diplomacy a sign of weakness. Maya immediately called her team together. Dr. Ben Liu, the station's child psychologist, arrived first. His expertise in human development had proven valuable when studying how alien younglings learned and grew. Dr. Lisa Park, the interspecies relations specialist, came next. She understood alien cultures better than anyone on the station. This has to be some kind of trap, Dr. Park said after Maya explained the situation. The Kreth don't trust anyone with their young. They barely trust each other. Dr. Liu nodded in agreement. Kreth society is built on dominance and aggression. Their younglings are trained from birth to be ruthless. Why would they want humans involved in that process? Maya pulled up files on her computer screen, showing recent galactic communications. I've been checking our databases since the call ended. Something strange is happening across the galaxy. In the past month, 17 different predator species have made similar requests. She displayed a list of species names on the wall screen. The Ravik clans, the Terran hierarchy, the Vash collective, all known for their aggressive territorial behavior and predatory nature. All had recently contacted human settlements about caring for their young. The Ravik asked the human colony on Kepler 442 to establish a nursery facility, Maya continued. The Terran hierarchy made a similar request to the research station on Mars. Every single one of these species is asking for the same thing. Dr. Park studied the data with growing amazement. These species have been enemies for centuries. Some of them have never even spoken to each other. Yet they're all suddenly interested in human childcare services. Dr. Liu was already pulling up psychological profiles of the various species. What they all have in common is their predatory nature and aggressive social structures. But why humans? We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the most advanced. Most of these species could crush us in direct combat. Maya had been wondering the same thing. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community. They had only made contact with alien civilizations 50 years ago. Since then, they had established themselves as competent but not exceptional in most areas. Human technology was decent but not revolutionary. Human military forces were capable but not overwhelming. Human diplomacy was effective but not groundbreaking. There has to be something that triggered this, Maya said. 17 species don't suddenly change their fundamental approach to child-rearing without a reason. Dr. Park was already accessing historical databases. I'll start looking through recent interspecies incidents. Maybe something happened that we missed or didn't understand the significance of ... Dr. Liu was taking notes on his tablet. I'll review everything we know about predator species child development. There might be patterns we haven't noticed before. Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Whatever was happening, Harmony Base was about to become the center of something unprecedented. The galaxy's most dangerous predators were entrusting their future generations to human care. The implications were staggering. She walked to the observation deck after her team dispersed to their research tasks. Through the transparent walls, she could see the stars scattered across the black void of space. Somewhere out there, the Kreth Empire was preparing to bring their younglings to humans. Other predator species were making similar preparations. Maya thought about her own childhood, growing up on Earth before humanity joined the galactic community. She remembered her parents' gentle guidance, the way they encouraged her curiosity while teaching her right from wrong. Human child-rearing had always emphasized both independence and empathy, strength and compassion. Perhaps that was the key. Maybe these predator species had noticed something about human-raised individuals that they wanted for their own young. But what could humans possibly offer that these advanced civilizations couldn't provide for themselves? The next 72 hours would bring answers, but Maya suspected they would also bring more questions. The galaxy was changing, and somehow humans had become central to that change. She just hoped they were ready for the responsibility that was coming their way. Dr. Lisa Park had been searching through galactic databases for 3 days straight when she found it. Her eyes were tired from staring at screens, and her back ached from hunching over her workstation. But the discovery made all the discomfort disappear. She had found the connection. Maya, you need to see this. She called across the research lab. Maya hurried over to Park Station, where dozens of files were spread across multiple screens. News reports, diplomatic communications, and incident reports covered every available display. Look at this, Park said, highlighting a classified report dated 2 years earlier. The sanctuary incident on Nexus Prime, a human cargo pilot named Alex Reed made an emergency landing during the territorial war between the Korth and the Melanie. Maya read the report quickly. The Korth and Melanie had been fighting over mining rights on Nexus Prime for decades. Their conflict was one of the most brutal territorial disputes in that sector of the galaxy. Both species were known for their aggressive nature and complete inability to compromise. Reed's ship was damaged by debris from a space battle, Park continued. He crashed on the planet's surface and couldn't call for rescue because his communication systems were destroyed. The report says he was stranded for 3 weeks. Maya scrolled through the official documentation. Most of it was standard military language about rescue operations and damaged equipment. But buried in the appendices was something remarkable. During his time on the surface, Reed discovered abandoned younglings from both warring factions, Maya read aloud. The fighting had forced adult populations to evacuate quickly, leaving behind juveniles who couldn't keep up with the retreat. Park pulled up additional files. Here's where it gets interesting. Reed didn't just help one species. He found Korth, cubs and Melanie hatchlings scattered across the battlefield. Instead of choosing sides or leaving them behind, he gathered them all together. The next part of the report made Maya's breath catch. Reed had created a makeshift shelter in the ruins of a bombed building. For 3 weeks, he cared for natural enemies side by side. He found food for both species, treated their injuries, and kept them safe from the ongoing conflict around them. When the rescue team finally reached him, Park said, they found something unprecedented. Korth and Melanie younglings playing together peacefully while Reed supervised their activities. Maya stared at the attached photographs. The images showed Reed, a middle-aged human with graying hair and tired eyes, surrounded by alien children. Some had fur, others had scales, but all of them seemed comfortable and content in his presence. The rescue team reported that the younglings from both species showed distress when separated, Park continued. They had formed bonds not just with Reed, but with each other. Natural enemies had become playmates under human guidance. Dr. Ben Liu joined them at the workstation. He had been reviewing psychological profiles of predator species when he heard them discussing the incident. "This explains everything," Liu said after reading the report. Word must have spread through underground networks about what happened. On Nexus Prime, Maya was already connecting the dots. The adult Korth and Melanie who came to retrieve their young saw something they had never witnessed before. Their natural enemy's offspring thriving under human care. Park nodded enthusiastically, and it gets better. I found follow-up reports tracking those same younglings as they grew up. The ones who spent time with Reed showed significantly different behavioral patterns compared to their peers. She displayed a series of psychological evaluations on the screen. The Korth cubs who had been cared for by Reed developed into adults with better emotional regulation and stronger diplomatic skills. The Melanie hatchlings grew up to be leaders who could form alliances instead of just conquering territory. "Look at this data," Liu said, pointing to specific measurements. Reduced aggression indices, improved social cooperation scores, enhanced empathy responses. These younglings became fundamentally different adults. Maya felt pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. The leaders of various predator species must have noticed these changes. They saw that human influence created stronger, more capable adults. Park was already pulling up more recent communications. I found references to the Nexus Prime incident in diplomatic channels. Species leaders have been quietly discussing Reed's methods for months. The files showed careful analysis by alien governments of human child-rearing practices. Predator species had been studying how humans raised their own young and how they interacted with alien children when given the opportunity. They discovered something we take for granted, Liu observed. Humans have an unusual ability to care for young that aren't their own species. Most alien cultures show strong preference for their own kind, but humans extend parental instincts across species lines. Maya thought about her own experiences with alien visitors to the research station. She had always found herself protective of younger alien crew members, regardless of their species. She had assumed this was normal behavior, but apparently it was uniquely human. "There's more," Park said, accessing classified military databases. After the Nexus Prime incident, several intelligence agencies began studying human behavior patterns. They documented dozens of cases where humans showed protective instincts toward alien children. The evidence was overwhelming. During trade negotiations, humans consistently advocated for the welfare of alien younglings. In emergency situations, humans risked their lives to save alien children. Even in combat zones, human soldiers often went out of their way to protect non-human juveniles. "We've been doing this unconsciously for years," Maya realized. While we thought we were just being decent people, alien species were watching and taking notes. Liu was reviewing psychological assessments of human behavior. It makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Humans evolved as cooperative hunters who survived by working together. Our parental instincts developed to support group survival, not just individual genetic lines. Park displayed a timeline on the main screen. After the sanctuary incident, there were isolated requests for human involvement in childcare situations. A Ravik clan asked for human mediation in custody disputes. A Terran settlement requested human teachers for their schools. Each incident had built on the previous one. Alien species began documenting the positive effects of human involvement in child development. The results consistently showed improved outcomes for younglings who spent time under human guidance. "They're not just asking us to babysit," Maya said with growing understanding. They want us to help them raise a better generation of leaders. The implications were staggering. The galaxy's most aggressive species had recognized that their traditional child-rearing methods were producing adults with significant limitations. Their hyper-competitive societies created powerful warriors but poor diplomats. Their territorial instincts made them effective conquerors but terrible allies. Human influence doesn't make their young weak, Liu added. It makes them stronger by adding emotional intelligence and cooperative skills to their natural aggressive abilities. Maya walked back to the observation deck, processing everything they had discovered. Alex Reed's 3 weeks of caring for enemy younglings had started. A quiet revolution across the galaxy. Predator species were recognizing that their greatest weakness wasn't military or technological inferiority, but their inability to raise young who could build lasting alliances. Humans offered something no other species could provide: the ability to nurture strength without crushing independence, to teach empathy without eliminating competitive drive. They could raise warriors who fought with both courage and compassion. The Kreth Empire would arrive tomorrow, bringing their most precious possessions to the people they had once considered weak and pathetic. Maya finally understood why. The Kreth transport ship looked like a weapon even while docked at Harmony Base. Its dark metal hull was covered in spikes and angular designs that seemed designed to intimidate rather than impress. Maya watched through the observation window. As Commander Vorth emerged from the ship, followed by 6 smaller figures, the Kreth younglings were not what Maya had expected. Each one stood nearly as tall as an adult human, with developing claws and teeth that were already sharp enough to cause serious damage. Their yellow eyes scanned the docking bay with suspicious intelligence, and their movements suggested barely contained aggression. "These are our future military commanders," Commander Vorth explained as the group entered the station's main conference room. "They are bred for leadership and trained from birth to dominate those who oppose the Empire." Dr. Ben Liu studied the younglings carefully. The oldest appeared to be equivalent to a human teenager, while the youngest seemed to be around 8 years old in human terms. All of them carried themselves with the confident posture of apex predators. "Why are you bringing us your most aggressive younglings?" Maya asked. "Wouldn't it make more sense to start with more cooperative individuals?" Commander Vorth's expression remained stern. "If humans can successfully guide these younglings, then human methods have true value. These 6 represent our greatest challenge in child development. They are powerful but difficult to control, intelligent but resistant to authority." Maya began to understand. The Kreth weren't asking for simple childcare services. They were presenting humans with their most problematic younglings as a test. If humans could help these difficult cases, then the Kreth would trust them with their entire next generation. Dr. Lisa Park stepped forward to address the younglings directly. "Welcome to Harmony Base. We're excited to learn about your culture and share some of ours." The oldest youngling, who introduced himself as Torvin, responded with barely concealed hostility. "We do not require guidance from inferior species. We are here because the Empire commands it, nothing more." The other younglings showed similar attitudes. They viewed humans as weak creatures who had somehow tricked their leaders into this arrangement. Their body language suggested they considered this entire situation beneath their dignity. Liu had prepared for this reaction. He had studied Kreth psychology and understood that respect had to be earned through strength, not given through kindness. But human strength was different from what the Kreth expected. "Your empire sent you here because they believe you have something to learn," Liu said calmly. "Rejecting that opportunity shows weakness, not strength." Torvin's eyes flashed with anger, but he didn't respond immediately. Liu had challenged him in terms he understood while avoiding direct confrontation. Maya led the group to the residential section that had been prepared for their stay. Each youngling received their own room equipped with environmental controls set to Kreth preferences. The common areas included exercise equipment, study materials, and recreational facilities. "Your schedule will include physical training, academic lessons, and group activities," Maya explained. "Dr. Liu will be your primary supervisor, with support from our entire team. The youngest youngling, a female named Kira, seemed more curious than hostile. She examined the human-designed facilities with obvious interest, though she tried to hide her fascination when the others were watching. "These accommodations are adequate," Torvin declared after inspecting his room. "But do not expect us to participate in whatever weak conditioning you have planned." Liu smiled slightly. "We're not planning to condition you. We're planning to challenge you in ways you've never experienced before." The first real test came during the morning exercise session. The Kreth younglings were accustomed to physical training that emphasized individual dominance and competitive superiority. Liu introduced them to cooperative exercises that required teamwork to succeed. "This is pointless," Torvin complained after failing to complete an obstacle course designed for multiple participants. "Individual strength is all that matters." Liu set up a new challenge. "Complete this course alone and I'll agree with you. Fail, and you'll try the cooperative version." The course was specifically designed to be impossible for a single individual, no matter how strong or skilled. Torvin attempted it 3 times before admitting defeat, his pride wounded but his curiosity aroused. "Now try it with your team," Liu suggested. Working together, the 6 younglings completed the course easily. Each one contributed their unique strengths while covering for their teammates' weaknesses. The experience was new and unsettling for them. Kira was the first to openly acknowledge what had happened. "We accomplished more together than any of us could alone." "But cooperation makes you vulnerable to betrayal," Torvin argued, though his voice lacked its earlier certainty. Liu sat down with the group after the exercise. "In human society, we have a saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. But we also understand that the strongest chain is made of many links working together." Over the following days, Liu and his team introduced the Kreth younglings to concepts that their society had never emphasized. They learned about empathy through role-playing exercises where they had to consider situations from other perspectives. They practiced negotiation skills by resolving simulated conflicts without violence. The most challenging lesson involved caring for weaker individuals. Liu brought in injured animals from the station's small menagerie and asked the younglings to help with their care. The concept of protecting something vulnerable rather than eliminating it was alien to Kreth thinking. "Why waste energy on creatures that cannot contribute to our strength?" asked Drung, one of the middle-aged younglings. Maya answered by showing them footage from the Nexus Prime incident. "This human," Alex Reed, "cared for younglings from enemy species. Those younglings grew up to become some of the most effective leaders in their respective civilizations. Because they learned to think beyond immediate dominance," Liu added. "They developed the ability to build alliances, to inspire loyalty rather than just enforce obedience." Slowly, the Kreth younglings began to change. Torvin started helping his teammates instead of just competing with them. Kira showed protective instincts toward the injured animals in their care. Even the most resistant younglings began displaying behaviors that would have been considered weakness in traditional Kreth society. The breakthrough came during a crisis simulation. Liu had arranged for a mock emergency where the younglings had to evacuate endangered civilians of various species. Traditional Kreth training would have prioritized saving the strongest and most valuable individuals first. Instead, the younglings instinctively moved to protect the most vulnerable evacuees. They worked together to ensure everyone's safety, regardless of species or individual worth. When Liu pointed out what they had done, they seemed surprised by their own actions. "We acted as protectors rather than conquerors," Torvin observed with wonder. "Yet we felt stronger, not weaker." "Because real strength isn't about dominating others," Maya explained. "It's about taking responsibility for others. It's about building something larger than yourself." Commander Vorth returned after 3 weeks to evaluate the results. He found his younglings engaged in activities that would have been unthinkable in Kreth society. They were teaching younger human children about Kreth culture while learning human games and stories. "They have not become weak," Vorth noted with surprise. "They have become something new." Liu presented detailed behavioral assessments showing improved emotional regulation, enhanced problem-solving skills, and dramatically better social cooperation. The younglings retained their natural aggressiveness and competitive drive, but they had learned to channel these traits constructively. They will return to the Empire as better leaders, Maya assured Vorth. Stronger because they can inspire. Loyalty more effective because they can build alliances, more successful because they understand that true power comes from lifting others up rather than tearing them down. Vorth studied his transformed younglings with something approaching wonder. The Empire will want to understand exactly how you accomplish this. We have many more younglings who could benefit from human guidance. As the Kreth prepared to depart, Kira approached Maya with an unusual request. Could some humans come to our worlds? Our younger siblings need what you have taught us. Maya smiled, realizing that the test had been passed beyond all expectations. The galaxy's most feared predators weren't just accepting human guidance, they were actively seeking it out. The future was beginning to look very different from the past. 3 months after the Kreth younglings returned home, Harmony Base looked like a completely different place. The once quiet research station now buzzed with activity as ships from dozens of predator species arrived daily. The docking bays that had once hosted only supply vessels and research teams now accommodated diplomatic transports carrying precious cargo. Maya walked through the expanded residential sections, observing the remarkable scene unfolding around her. Rabbit cubs played alongside Terran hatchlings in the common areas, while vast juveniles learned cooperative games from their human supervisors. Species that had been mortal enemies for generations were sharing meals and learning together under human guidance. Dr. Ben Liu approached her with a datapad full of behavioral assessments. The pattern is consistent across all species, he reported. Every group of younglings shows the same transformation we saw with the Kreth. Maya reviewed the statistics on the screen. Aggressive tendencies were being channeled into protective instincts. Competitive drives were being redirected toward collaborative achievement. Territorial behaviors were evolving into inclusive leadership styles. But there's something deeper happening here, Liu continued. The adult representatives who bring these younglings are starting to open up about why they're really here. Maya had noticed the change as well. Initially, the various species representatives had been formal and guarded, treating the arrangement as a necessary but unpleasant diplomatic obligation. Recently, they had become more talkative, sharing information about their societies that had never been discussed with outsiders. Dr. Lisa Park joined them, carrying her own collection of research materials. I've been conducting interviews with the adult representatives from all 17 species. What I'm discovering is fascinating and troubling. She led them to a private conference room where she had compiled her findings. The walls were covered with charts, graphs, and detailed notes about predator society structures. Every single one of these civilizations is facing the same fundamental crisis, Park began. Their traditional child-rearing methods are producing adults who are powerful but psychologically unstable. Maya studied the data Park had gathered. High rates of mental illness among adult predators, frequent internal conflicts within their governments, and an inability to maintain long-term alliances were common across all the species. The Ravik Ambassador General Thane explained it to me yesterday, Park continued. Their society produces excellent warriors but terrible diplomats. They can conquer territory, but they can't govern it effectively because their leaders can't work together. Liu nodded in understanding. It's the same story with every species. The Terran hierarchy controls 12 star systems, but they're constantly fighting civil wars because their leaders view cooperation as weakness, Park displayed. Psychological profiles on the main screen. Look at these leadership assessments. Exceptional individual combat skills, outstanding tactical intelligence, but almost zero emotional regulation and virtually no capacity for trust. Maya began to see the larger picture. They're not just bringing us their younglings for better education. They're trying to save their civilizations from internal collapse. Exactly, Park confirmed. The Vash Collective ambassador told me that their empire nearly destroyed itself in a leadership struggle last year. 3 different factions fought for control because none of them could conceive of sharing power. The implications were staggering. These predator species had conquered vast territories and built impressive military forces, but their success was hollow. They couldn't maintain what they had built because their leaders were fundamentally incapable of working together, Liu was reviewing psychological theories on his tablet. It makes sense from a developmental perspective. Their child-rearing emphasizes dominance over cooperation, competition over collaboration. They're creating adults who are individually powerful but collectively dysfunctional. Maya thought about her conversations with Commander Vorth during his recent visits. The Kreth Empire controlled more territory than any other single species, but Vorth had admitted that maintaining that control required constant military action against rebellious factions within their own government. The human younglings they observe must seem like miracles to them, Maya realized. Children who are strong but also cooperative, competitive but also empathetic. Park was already pulling up comparative studies. I've been analyzing human child development practices compared to predator species methods. The differences are remarkable. Human children were taught to value both individual achievement and group success. They learned to compete fiercely while still maintaining friendships with their competitors. Most importantly, they were raised to understand that true strength came from protecting others rather than dominating them. We teach our children that leadership means responsibility for others' welfare, Liu observed. Predator species teach their young that leadership means the right to control others' actions. Maya walked to the observation deck, looking out at the ships docked at their station. Each vessel represented a species that had built an empire through conquest and aggression. Yet here they were, asking humans to help them raise their children differently. They figured out what we didn't even realize about ourselves, she said when Liu and Park joined her. Humans have developed the most effective child-rearing methods in the galaxy. Liu was taking notes for his research. We evolved as cooperative hunters and social animals. Our survival depended on working together while still maintaining individual initiative. That balance is reflected in how we raise our young. Park was monitoring communications from the various species representatives. The reports they're sending home are causing major policy changes. The Ravik clans have suspended their traditional dominance trials for younglings. The Terran hierarchy is implementing cooperative training programs. Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. We're not just caring for alien children anymore. We're reshaping the future of multiple civilizations. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Maya activated the screen to find Ambassador Keth of the Zorian Imperium, another predator species known for their ruthless expansion policies. Dr. Torres, Keth began, his reptilian features showing unusual vulnerability, we request permission to bring our younglings to your facility. Our empire is failing because our leaders cannot work together. We have observed the changes in younglings who have been under human guidance. Maya looked at Liu and Park before responding. We'll need to expand our facilities again. After ending the communication, the 3 researchers sat in contemplative silence. What had started as a simple research project had become something unprecedented in galactic history. We're witnessing the transformation of predator society from the ground up, Park said finally. These species are voluntarily changing their most fundamental cultural practices because they've recognized that human methods produce better results. Liu was already planning expansion protocols. We'll need more staff, larger facilities, and specialized programs for each species. This is going to require resources we don't currently have. Maya was thinking beyond immediate logistics. We need to understand the full scope of what we're doing. We're not just improving individual younglings, we're potentially preventing future wars and creating lasting peace between species that have been enemies for millennia. The observation deck's viewing window showed stars scattered across the darkness of space. Somewhere among those distant lights, predator species were preparing to send their most precious possessions to humans for guidance. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had somehow become the catalyst for that transformation. "The question is," Maya said softly, "are we ready for the responsibility of raising the next generation of galactic leaders?" 5 years after Commander Vorth first arrived at Harmony Base, Maya stood in the main courtyard of the Interspecies Development Center watching a scene that would have been impossible to imagine when her journey began. The facility now covered 3 entire moons with specialized sections designed for the unique needs of 47 different predator species. A young Kreth named Zara was teaching a group of mixed-species younglings how to build cooperative shelter structures. Nearby, a Ravik cub and a Terran hatchling worked together on a complex engineering project, their natural competitive instincts channeled into collaborative problem-solving. The sight still amazed Maya, even after witnessing thousands of similar transformations. Dr. Ben Liu joined her in the courtyard, carrying a communication device that had been buzzing constantly for the past hour. "The Galactic Council has reached their decision," he announced with barely contained excitement. Maya took the device and activated the official communication channel. The face of Council Speaker Aldara appeared on the screen, her expression serious but warm. "Dr. Torres," Speaker Aldara began, "after extensive deliberation, the Galactic Council has voted unanimously to establish the formal position of Keepers of the Young. Humanity will be granted unprecedented authority and responsibility for the development of juveniles from participating species." Maya felt her heart racing as the implications sank in. This wasn't just recognition of their work, it was a fundamental shift in galactic governance. "The position comes with significant privileges and obligations," Speaker Aldara continued. "Humans will have the right to establish development centers throughout the galaxy, the authority to set standards for interspecies child-rearing, and the responsibility to ensure the welfare of all younglings under their care." Dr. Lisa Park had arrived just in time to hear the announcement. She stood beside Maya with tears in her eyes, understanding that everything they had worked toward was being formally recognized. "Additionally," Speaker Aldara said, "the Council has voted to establish the Interspecies Peace Accords, a treaty system based on principles of cooperative development rather than territorial dominance. The success of human child-rearing methods has demonstrated that lasting peace is possible when future leaders are raised with both strength and empathy." The communication ended, leaving the 3 researchers standing in stunned silence. Around them, younglings from species that had been bitter enemies continued playing and learning together, oblivious to the historic moment unfolding. Liu was the first to speak. "We fundamentally changed how galactic civilization operates. Species that have fought for millennia are now working together because their children have learned to see cooperation as strength." Maya looked around the courtyard, watching human supervisors guiding activities that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier. Former enemies were not just coexisting, they were thriving together under human guidance. A young Vash approached Maya with a question about her engineering project. As Maya helped her solve the problem, she marveled at how natural these interactions had become. The youngling showed no species-based prejudice, no inherited hatred for traditional enemies. She saw other younglings as potential friends and collaborators rather than competitors to be eliminated. "The first generation is almost ready to return home as adults," Park observed. "The real test will be whether they can maintain these cooperative attitudes when they're back in their traditional societies." Maya had been worried about the same issue. The younglings who had spent years at the development center were now reaching maturity according to their species' biological timelines. Soon they would return to their homeworlds as adults, carrying human-influenced values into societies built on very different principles. "The reports from early graduates are encouraging," Liu said, accessing files on his tablet. "Torvin, the first Kreth youngling we worked with, has been promoted to a leadership position in their military. Instead of ruling through fear and dominance, he's earned loyalty through protective leadership and strategic cooperation." Similar success stories were emerging across all the participating species. Young adults who had been raised with human guidance were becoming transformational leaders in their societies. They retained their natural competitive drives and aggressive capabilities, but they used these traits to protect and improve their communities rather than simply dominating them. Maya received an urgent communication request from Commander Vorth, who had become a regular contact over the years. His face appeared on her personal communication device, showing an expression of profound satisfaction. "Dr. Torres," Vorth began, "I am contacting you to report on the progress of our graduates. The Kreth Empire has experienced its longest period of internal peace in recorded history. Our young leaders are building alliances instead of fighting wars, strengthening our civilization instead of weakening it through constant conflict." "That's wonderful news, Commander," Maya replied. "How are the traditional leaders responding to these changes?" Vorth's expression became thoughtful. There was initial resistance from older generations who saw cooperation as weakness, but the results speak for themselves. Our territory is more secure, our people are more prosperous, and our influence in galactic affairs has grown significantly. Even the most traditional among us cannot argue with success. After ending the communication, Maya walked to her office to review the latest reports from development centers across the galaxy. The program had expanded far beyond what anyone had originally envisioned. Thousands of human supervisors were now working on hundreds of worlds, guiding the development of younglings from species throughout the galaxy. The psychological assessments were consistently positive. Anxiety and depression rates among participating younglings were dramatically lower than galactic averages. Academic achievement levels were higher. Most importantly, measures of empathy and cooperative behavior showed improvements that previous research had suggested were impossible. Liu found Maya reviewing the data and sat down across from her desk. "I've been thinking about why this works so well," he said. "What is it about human child-rearing that produces these remarkable results?" Maya had been pondering the same question for years. "I think it's because we evolved to survive through cooperation while maintaining individual initiative. We learned to balance competition with collaboration, strength with empathy. But there's something more," Liu continued. "Other species can cooperate when necessary. What makes humans unique is our ability to extend parental instincts beyond our own genetic lines." Maya nodded in agreement. "We care for other species' young as if they were our own. We protect them, guide them, and invest in their future success without expecting genetic benefit for ourselves." Park entered the office carrying a datapad with new research findings. "I've been studying the long-term psychological effects of human guidance on alien younglings. The changes appear to be permanent and inheritable. Graduates are raising their own children using modified techniques that combine traditional species practices with human-influenced methods. The implications were staggering. Human influence wasn't just changing individual lives, it was transforming entire evolutionary trajectories. Species that had been locked into aggressive, territorial patterns for millions of years were developing new social structures within a single generation." Maya stood and walked to her window, looking out at the bustling activity of the development center. Young beings from dozens of species were learning, playing, and growing together under human guidance. They were becoming something new, something that combined the strength and intelligence of their own species with the cooperative and empathetic qualities that humans had somehow perfected. "We've become more than just teachers or caregivers," Maya realized. "We've become the architects of a new kind of civilization." Liu and Park joined her at the window, watching as a mixed group of younglings worked together to solve a complex puzzle that required combining different species' unique abilities. Traditional rivalries and prejudices were absent from their interactions. They saw diversity as an asset rather than a threat. "The galaxy is going to look very different in 50 years, Park observed. "When these younglings become the leaders of their civilizations, they'll remember growing up with former enemies as friends and collaborators." Maya smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction with the work they had accomplished. Humanity found its purpose in the galaxy. We're not the strongest species or the most advanced, but we're the best at raising children who can build a better future. As the day ended and the various younglings returned to their residential areas, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. A simple research project had become a galactic transformation. Human child-rearing methods had proven to be the key to lasting peace between species that had fought for millennia. The stars outside her window seemed brighter somehow, filled with the promise of a future where strength and compassion could coexist, where competition and cooperation could work together, and where the galaxy's most dangerous predators could trust their most precious possessions to the guidance of humans. Maya's final report to the Galactic Council would be simple but profound. Sometimes, the greatest strength isn't in conquering others, but in nurturing the next generation to be better than those who came before. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as warriors or scientists, but as the keepers of hope for a better tomorrow.